as a resource, additional resource of. Thanks, Libya.
Yeah, because that's obviously viable information too for other folks. Yeah.
Yeah. And I sent it in the chat. Viable, Libyan, how you pronounce this?
Yeah, viable. That's correct.
Viable product.
Product. Okay.
Yes, you can. I'm sure that is information in French as well.
Of course, of course.
The concept is
Even
very
sounds like a
interesting.
cognate for French, right?
Okay. We will check and review if necessary to change or.
Yeah, if you can take something from there, it's gonna be
Why
nice
not?
too.
Yes.
Well, it certainly looks like there's some leapfrogging that you can all do. Like there's some links between the different projects. So hopefully, as we get more clear about what each person is doing, that might really help. You might even find some synergy together right there, you know. So let's see what happens with that. So we're going to continue today where we left off, right? We had left off. We talked about the 4 P's of innovation, right? Which we said was philosophy, people, process, and product or services. And then a lot of you had already said, oh, I've been working on that. I know what my vision and mission statement is. And then we said, okay, well, let's revisit that from the point of view of an innovative project. So you can probably try and, you know, and adapt it a little bit or just finesse the language. And then again, based on the language, because that's the point of our sessions together, we wanted to help you articulate what it is that you're doing in English so that when you're paired up with somebody from the European side, you feel quite confident in expressing your vision, your mission, your goals, your timelines in English. And the next point of that is, of course, as you've already guessed from the various sessions that we've had together, it doesn't really matter what level of English you're at, right? Because we can all express it in English at different levels, okay? So the point is to be able to articulate and align our thoughts, right? And our work. So some of this might have been things that you had looked at before. So then it's really just a revisit from a different perspective. And some of you may not have thought of it before. So then it's an opportunity to develop it now. Okay, so where we left off, and we wanted you to think about this for a couple of days, was a change model. So we really want to make sure that every single one of your projects is a change model, and that within that change model, there is an opportunity for success, right? So in order to answer that, we were going to start asking you to share with us, and we'll do that right now for whoever's on there. Fortification, demarginalized, and research, right? So how do we create better circumstances for people, right, to participate of your project? And who needs the help specifically? And how do you know you can make that change happen? So that's just basically 3 sentences to answer each one of these questions. And any one of you can begin first. So you can just raise your hand and oh, and by the way, if you know your classroom name, go ahead and tell me what that is, so that we can start recognizing you with that. Okay, so who's ready to tell us these 3 things? These 3 things will identify your change model.
For I'm just.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, definitely I can say 3 things about my project.
Super.
Originality,
Okay. That's right. I like
efficiency,
that word. That's a very good word. Hold on to that word. Okay. Because that's an important word.
originality,
Yeah.
efficiency, I can say,
Yes. Good.
and impact. Impact.
Good. Good. Very nice. And then
Yes, cool.
which is the community that it's going to have a originality, efficiency, and impact with?
With what I told you about my own project, this project will correlate with the association project named PADFG.
Good, good, good. Now you see that? So you're coming full circle, right? So we're defining something with a little bit more precise languaging, right? Originality, efficiency, and impact, right? And then we know that that's correct, right? Because it's kind of self-correcting cycle, because you had thought about it before, and now you can verify, yeah, I was on the right track. That's correct. Okay. So I'm going to efficiently and originally make an impact with my work to that group. Lovely. Well done. Well done. Anyone else ready?
Very nice.
Hey there. Go ahead and tell us 3 things about your project. How is your project going to create better circumstances?
This is quite important, how you create better circumstances, better opportunities.
Go ahead. We can help you articulate it.
Hello, Mr.
Hello.
Theodore.
Hey there.
Hello.
Good evening, Aisha.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening too.
Thank you. My project in the sector of quality.
Yes.
It is important because they have innovation of many sectors.
Mhm.
Okay.
Quality is important.
Right.
Yes.
So then how are you going to create better circumstances within those multiple sectors?
Is the satisfaction clear?
Yep. Say more.
Yes.
So think about it like a Venn diagram, you know, like those Venn diagrams where you have the 3 circles and then they intersect somewhere, right? So how does that create better circumstances? Obviously, the quality is going to create better circumstances, right? Who needs that help specifically? And you already know, you answered the part about the research, right? Because you said what is needed is a quality issue, not just, you know, the issue in general.
In the cadre of quality.
Yes.
It is of utilization.
Okay, so review the 3 for me. So the quality part has to do with the research, right? Because you know that they need a quality aspect. Then what's demarginalized? Which is the exact community that needs that quality? Yeah?
they have 1, 2, 3 points of the quality.
Okay. And what age group of a youngster is in need of that? Is it
the
like
first,
20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 18-year-olds, 40-year-olds? What? Boys, girls? What do you think?
no, more of 20 years.
Okay, 20-year-olds, and both men and women?
Men and women.
Okay, good. So that answers that second question of the demarginalized, right? And then how are we going to create the better circumstances? The very first one about 4 to 5. So we already know the research question is answered with the quality aspect. The demarginalized question is answered with 20-year-olds that are both men and women. So now let's go back to this first one, which is 4 to 5. How are you going to create the better circumstances for the 20-year-olds, men and women with a quality product, right? So how are you going to create that? Like, is it going to be a live training? Is it going to be a pamphlet? Is it going to be a class? Is it going to be mentoring? A platform like our colleague? What? How? How?
First formation.
Information. Okay. And then is it going to be like a class?
Formation,
Like
formation in the class, yes, formation.
A class. Okay, good. Okay, so you're going to create a class, right? So you're going to create a syllabus or a curriculum that will allow 20-year-old men and women to experience that level of quality that they're missing out on right now. Okay, excellent, excellent. Good job, good job. Next, is there someone else out there that wants to try? And then we'll move on to the next slide. Third person.
Very interesting.
Okay, is there a third person out there? Well, you can think about it and then we can go on to the next slide. Why don't you move on to that next slide, Theo? All right, so all of this has to do a lot with you thinking differently, okay? So for you to be innovative, you actually have to change your mindset, right? Because unless you change your mindset, you're still going to be thinking like everybody else. So you almost have to take a step to the side, like a lateral step to the side, and think differently. So what does that mean to think differently to encourage innovation? So we actually have 4 steps for this, okay? So it isn't like if we're just saying, okay, go think differently, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you how to do it, okay? So the way that you begin to think differently is asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Asking yourself questions and asking your questions of things that you read or research, or asking questions of things that you see out there that might look a little bit like what you're doing, but they're not quite like what you're doing, right? So like our colleague just said, originality, right? She used that word right away, okay? So that tells me that she's already looked out there and she said, well, there might be other platforms, but they're not like mine, right? Because hers is original. So how did she come to that conclusion? She probably looked critically at things out there, right? Just like our colleague now just said, he's going to create a class, a syllabus, a curriculum for a quality class on information technology. Means he's going to have to look at the classes that are taught and make sure that his is unique in some shape, way, or form. So how you do that is you ask questions just by yourself. You don't necessarily have to wait for the answer. You ask questions of what you're seeing out there. what you read, what you see in websites, what you see in YouTube, you know, who's out there doing something similar, but yours has to be unique. And not only unique, it has to be innovative, right? Because Mr. Theodore, with this project, he's going to pair you up with a European mentor, coach, colleague that's going to help you grow your project. Okay. So before you go talking to that person, you want to make sure that yours is innovative and unique. Okay. Original. So ask questions. The second thing is to observe the world. And what I mean by that is, you know, take a little time out every day to look on the internet, to look in the newspaper, to look in magazines, to look around you in the neighborhood or in nearby villages or cities. What are people doing that makes you think of your project? Maybe there's things in the nearby village that tells you, wow, that village is going to be the best place for me to find the youngsters that are going to be participating of the information technology classes. Or maybe the nearby city is the perfect place where they can grow certain fruits and vegetables that I can sell online. Okay, so observing the world. And again, when I say observing the world, remember, I'm old school, right? I'm an old lady over here. So I'm saying not just on the internet. I say internet, newspapers. What do you see in the street? Is there a buzz? Are there shops being opened or shops being closed? What's in a nearby village? What does your grandma say? Sometimes having a conversation with your auntie, she might say, oh, you know what? I miss not being able to buy cauliflower. I really miss that. I can't find it anymore in the stores. Can't find it. And I would love to buy myself a papaya, but I can't find those either. See, that tells you something, right? That maybe there are some produce that people are not farming anymore. So that might be something you might look into, okay? So talking to people not like yourself, the diversification of ideas. So if your project is pointed to a 20-year-old, that means that I want to talk to 30-year-olds and I want to talk to even 10-year-olds to find out why. Because those 10-year-olds will in 10 years become your students. And the 30-year-olds have probably already had some experiences and they're going to tell you what was bad and needed to be improved. And they might want to participate of your program as well. So you go like a bookend, right? The two sides of the coin. And if your program is geared towards women, like our colleague in the nearby country, he said he wanted to get these women to have like a little tent to sell their produce. Well, then you might want to take a look at what are the guys doing? Because whatever they're doing isn't helping the women. So you need to investigate what are people's diversification of ideas. People that you're not going to serve, how are they doing it so that you can better serve your group? Yes. And last but not least, experiment, which means that all this information that you've gathered, you know, in your head from reading the internet, from looking at the newspaper, looking at magazines, talking to people, so on and so forth, is going to boil down to your project, and it will become a part of the experimental levels of your project. Okay, so it'll become a part of, well, maybe I should have a little graphic designer do illustrations of the fruits and vegetables, as well as having pictures of the real fruits and vegetables, and maybe even having a little paragraph or a voice saying what is the benefit of eating that fruit and vegetable. How healthy is it for you? Maybe people haven't eaten them lately, or they don't remember if it's good for them or not. Maybe they don't like the taste, right? Just like young folks don't like eating a lot of vegetables. Well, why not? Maybe they're not used to it. They don't realize how healthy it is. Okay. So this whole sequence, a cascade, see, asking questions, observing the world, talking to people that are not like you. So diversification of ideas. And then it boils down to an experimentational phraseology or action that you can add to your project. It's about thinking differently is how you enter the world of innovation. And thinking differently is really just an exercise in critical thinking and thinking out of the box. Okay. So take that into consideration and put it in the back of your mind, even as we're listening to each other, right? Like even Mr. Theo answered today and he said, "Ah, I was thinking about you. I have something for you." Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect example of what we just said. He may not have thought of that before, but listening to you doing those presentations gave him an aha moment to share with you. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide there. All right. And that also means that when we're looking at experimentation, we must define the problem very clearly. Okay. And how do we define a problem? We know, and some of you have already said this in past presentations, that there seems to be a lack. There seems to be something missing, right? I'm sure you, as a child, you played that game where somebody put on a table 3 things that were the same and 1 thing that was different. And then they'd sing a song and say, okay, one of these things doesn't belong here. What is it? And then the child has to pick the 1 thing that's different. So maybe you have 3 fruit and 1 thing that's a piece of chicken. So they're all food, but the chicken is out of place because it's not a fruit, right? It's not produce. So we have to do the same thing when we're looking at the problem that you're solving. And again, you've all looked at this before. Somebody even said in the last session that somebody gave you a template for a business plan. So
Yes.
that's great. So what I'm
The
saying here
canvas.
is I'm bringing it down to your level of English, okay? So that you can describe this at whatever level of English that you're doing. Sometimes business plan templates have very elevated language that you may not feel comfortable talking about off the top of your head. So that's good for a piece of paper. But when you're talking in a conversation, you need to bring this down to your comfort level. Okay. So let's look at this from a couple perspectives. So you've already mentioned 2 presentations today talked about impact. So I think you understand that one very well, right? What is the impact of your project? It's important for you to articulate that in 1 sentence. The impact of my project is blankety, blankety, blank. Okay. New application. Both of you also mentioned that in your presentation today, right? One person is going to be doing a platform. Another person is going to be doing a new class at the university or at the college. Those are
For
two
college.
new applications. So that one you know very well. Okay, so these 2 you already know. So I would expect you to be able to write a sentence about those and we can share them on Saturday. Okay, the next one in the middle. Let's go for the middle. We talked about this one a couple weeks ago. Self-motivation. Does everybody remember? I asked you, are the youngsters, are the youth, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds that are going to be interacting with your product, with your service, are they self-motivated? There was a variety of different answers, right? Some of you said, to be perfectly honest with you, no, they're not self-motivated, right? Some of you said, well, they are motivated, but they need some help. Okay, so I think this one, interesting, I put it in the middle on purpose because when we talked about this one before, there were 2 different trains of thought. So you might want to revisit this one. Are people self-motivated to go buy the produce online, right? Are people self-motivated to sign up for that information technology class at the university? Are people self-motivated to become a young entrepreneur, right? Are people self-motivated to go plant rice in the fields? Okay, so if they're not, that's okay, because all it means is you have to formulate in your idea, how are you going to motivate them? Okay, so it's not a deal breaker. It just means that you need to say, okay, they're not motivated, but this is what I can do to make sure that they are excited about participating in my project. Okay, so it's just one more step. All right, that takes us to the next one. Desire to learn and improve. Now, when we're taking it from left to right versus right to left, it has a different speed or progression, right? Desire to learn and improve. If someone wants to learn and improve, chances are they just need some skills to become self-motivated, okay? But if someone is not self-motivated, they probably are a little weak on the desire to learn and improve. So again, not a deal breaker, but what it means is you have to articulate this. You have to say it so. Write a sentence about it. Write a few sentences about it. Think it through for yourself when you're going for a walk or when you're taking a shower. How will I increase their desire to learn and improve? And if we handle that problem, they're going to become self-motivated. Okay? And if they're self-motivated, they're going to be excited about your new application, and you will have an impact on their future. See that? How it goes? It's like a little cascade. Last but not least, in the going left to right, the very first one, or going right to left, the very last one, changing a cultural climate. Wow, this is a big one, right? Woo, because a cultural climate is a system. How do you change a cultural climate, right? So baby steps, right? Sometimes a cultural climate is what pushes against you and doesn't allow you to fly, right? Doesn't allow you to soar. And there can be a cultural climate in a company, in a business, in a school, in a country, in a city, in a village, in a family. Yes? So cultural climate, what do you have to fight up against? Is it the way the professors think in the university or the college? Or is it how people use the internet to be able to purchase things online? You know, what is it? Maybe they're too shy to become an entrepreneur. They don't know where to start. So they need a mentor or they need a coach. Okay. So you can look at these from left to right, or you can look at them from right to left. And as you can already see, most of you already have answered these. I think if we look at all of you guys, maybe you're only missing one or two to answer. So that's great because you've got most of your homework done, okay, for Saturday. So looking from left to right or from right to left. Writing them this way helps you to self-correct, right? It helps you to align and to make sure that your train of thought is in the right direction, okay? Again, what we're talking about is an innovation train of thought, to become an innovationeer. So thinking innovatively about the projects that you're doing so that you have something unique and different to share with your European counterparts. All right, any questions about this one? This one I think you mostly have. A lot of you have mentioned these in the past. So like I said, I think you're only missing one or two. Okay, next one. All right, so this is the process. How are you going to answer this? We just talked about this. You might find some information on the web, right, on the internet, in which case keep the web links, keep a list for yourself, almost like a bibliography of web links. Communication. Maybe you've been in communication with each other or other people. Right now, you're starting a big possibility of communicating with European counterparts. So how are you going to do that communication? WhatsApp, writing text messages, emails, sending them examples of your business plan, or sending them your mission statement or your vision statement. So think about, what are the interesting web links that you want to study more and read more about? Maybe they're examples of what not to do. No way, I'm not going to do it that way. So I want to remind myself that I'm not going to do it like that website. Or maybe they are examples of, wow, that's really cool. I'd like to do mine like that. Okay, so keep those website addresses. In communication, think about how you're articulating and expressing yourself in English about these things. Writing one sentence, playing with it, looking at it, maybe have your Google Translate, make sure it's what you wanted to say. Like I said, we're going to be giving you a Playmaker journal for you to jot down all of your ideas, so that you can articulate these things, either draw pictures, doodle, write sentences, write paragraphs, so you can practice this in your inside your own self-talk before you meet the European counterparts. And then, of course, that brings us to this networking. Who can you network? You probably already know who you're networking with, right? Before you started to participate in this group. But just here in this group, we've also seen that there might be some internal networking possibilities. I don't know if you all know, but Mr. Theo makes the best honey in Bulgaria. I even brought jars of this honey back to Atlanta with me, praying that the customs agent wouldn't take it away from me, because it is the most delicious honey you can ever imagine. So he himself might be a good resource for some of you that are thinking of those kind of products. Okay. I see that's inside scoop. You didn't know that, right? Beautiful honey. In fact, I only have maybe about 2 or 3 spoonfuls, and that was like a year ago. So this is like a treasure in our pantry. We only go have a little bit of it. We didn't want to use it all up, but of course now it's almost all used up. But you can ask him lots of questions about this because he has lots of experience. So there might be some interesting networking that you weren't aware of before you join this group. Maybe there's somebody within the group that you can all network with. And then, of course, the big drum roll, the new people you're going to network. All right. So these are examples of process, because remember, we talked about 4 P's, right? Philosophy, product, process, and people. Okay, so that's an example of process, so that you can see it isn't all, woo-woo, complicated or different. It's about being disciplined. Okay. Now, this particular one, we're going to be working with this a lot more in the next 5 modules. So this is just an introduction for you to start having in your back of your mind. As you know, you've already understood how my mind works, right? I like to give you an overview, and then I like to break it down one by one. So I think by now you've already figured me out, right? That I like to show you everything, the big picture, and then I go backwards and I go 1, 1, 1, 1, and then I go back again and I review it again. And then I show you the big picture again, right? So this one here is your overview. We're going to be diving deeper into this in the last 5 modules. So 6 different ways to change culture. Culture is really, really, really important. Why? Why do I say really 4 times? Because it's a system within itself. Systems are tough to change. Okay. So it's almost like you got to be water, right? So that you can flexibly move around and over the rocks. You may not be able to change where those rocks are, but you might be able to fluidly move around the rocks. So culture is important, but culture also has to shift. And the quantum leap that occurs is what makes your project innovative within its impact. Okay, because if your project was not strong enough to be innovative, it's not going to make an impact, right? Because it's just old school. So we want to keep this into consideration. Keep reminding yourself of these 6 different ways. Double check. Can you put a check mark next to it? Can you go check, check, or can you go, no, I need to work on that some more. Okay, so keep it simple. Very important. So a while back, someone said, oh, I just need to practice with my English verbs and stuff. And I was like, well, you can go somewhere else for that. In fact, Mr. Theo's going to give you a link for Erasmus Plus English. He's even going to give you a link for iCal flashcards, which are really cool.
Quizlet.
Yeah, on Quizlet, it's free. And you can sign up and you can get the basic 360. I love those, not because they're ours, but because they have a little speaker so you can practice your pronunciation. But the main thing about this and keeping it simple is, how do you explain your project in your own words in English? Okay. Sometimes when we know a lot about something, we might be thinking in our native language, right? So I did a lot of projects in Vietnam. And in Vietnam, they would be speaking English in Vietnamese. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where people use their native language grammar, speaking it with English words. So it doesn't quite make sense, right? Because it's not the way people speak English, it's the way people speak Vietnamese. So of course, they would say, oh, but people don't understand us when we have a international business meeting or a conference call. And I was like, okay, you're talking in English, but really you're talking in Vietnamese and using English words. So what we want to get at is for you to explain your project in your own words, English to English. Okay, not forgetting about the French and just going English to English. So it could be simple, no matter what level of English you speak, but being able to express yourself simply about your project. So that's the first thing. The second thing is making it global. We talked about this on day 1. Making your project work globally because you want to expand your audience. You want to pull your program, your services, your product, not only in Senegal, not only in Africa, but globally. Okay. And then you want to be able to measure it. Did it work or didn't it work? Whatever you want to measure. If it's how many people visited your website, or if it's how many sales you had, or if it's if the students started out with the class in information technology and everybody did in their pre-test, they got a 0. And at the end of the program, they got 80%. That shows you that they learned something. That's something measurable. Okay. You will inevitably have to provide training and coaching. And we talked about this on day 1 when we asked you to think about your project as an education project, because your project is innovative, your project is unique, your project is original. So that means it is not the same old. So that means you're going to train and coach young people to participate and move your project forward. Okay. And then you're going to want to welcome lots of ideas from your team. So once you get started with those European counterparts, ask them lots of questions, pick their brain, find out what they can provide for you, information, examples, networking that help you move forward. And here's the most important one, which is to recognize and reward performance. So in my eyes, at the end of every one of these lessons, you should applaud yourself. Why? You showed up. Okay, so that's the first thing to congratulate yourself about. You took the effort to sign in, talk, participate in class, listen to the recording, ask questions, write notes, all the way to the end of the session. So that's the first thing you have to really applaud yourself, because if you don't show up, how are you going to learn some new things? So that's important. You showed up. You took advantage of this opportunity. Secondly, if you actually practice some of these things, write some sentences down in between sessions, think about it. You could see Mr. Theo was thinking about it between Sunday and today, Wednesday. He had a great aha moment, right? So you think about it in the back of your mind. What else are we saying here that can help you? And I know he sends you the recordings, so you can always listen to this again. And these little captions at the bottom help you to read it, because I'm sure that you can read better in English than you can understand or speak. So it gives you a double opportunity to practice. You may also note that I choose my English words very carefully to be cognates in French. So even though I'm speaking a lot of English, I'm choosing the words I say to you because I know that they have similar words in French. So that will help you grow your proficiency all the faster. Okay. So we're going to review these more, right? But this is all about creative thinking and process, how we're going to change the culture around your project. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. We got a little bit more time, and then we want food for thought for you to think about this. So last time we talked about this, your mission, right? We talked about your mission. So we said that we're looking at all of those points involving your mission. So last week, somebody said, well, I already have a mission statement, right? So do you want to tell me who already has one? You want to share? Somebody got one cooking already that you had before we started these sessions?
I remember how he was explaining that he was asking the
Yeah,
employees of
somebody
the,
said that, right? Somebody said,
bank.
oh, I've got mine. And I said, well, cool, I want to hear it on Wednesday. Now, maybe that person isn't here today, but that could be.
Yeah. I also remember. I was remembering mine actually, and
Yeah,
trying to.
okay. Well, these kind of things are, you got to like really play with the languaging and spin it around. I told you that story that we did a lot of training in a bank, and this bank had banks all over the eastern United States. And the first bank was built in the 1800s. So that bank had been around in this family for many, 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 many years. In fact, it's the same family that built this university called Carnegie Mellon. And then it's called the Mellon family. They're a very famous family in the East Coast of the United States. And of course, it got to a point where they wanted to sell the bank, because of the great grandchildren didn't want to be in the banking business anymore. So they really, really worked on this mission statement. My goodness, they wrote that thing probably 100 times. They already had one, but they kept rewriting it so that it would attract somebody that would be interested in purchasing, their bank. So it could very well be that you already had a mission statement, but you need to rework it, until it sounds right for what you're doing right now.
And also the slogan, I remember that how we develop our slogan and the company with the honey.
Yes, tell us about that.
We were saying that we're selling organic products, certified organic products, and we was wondering about the name and the brand, how to create a very interesting and very catching brand and name, and in the end, how we end up in organic, which is
Ah,
a very good play with the words because we have organic and it's organic. It's very near to organic, but it's something more somehow magical, and at the same time, it's almost the same word. And then
okay. So a play on words.
play on words, and then we was saying, but we want to go like you were saying, a very strong vision. We want to go beyond organic. We want people to grow healthy food, organic food, and sell this food even with no specific certification that is saying that this food is uh, following this procedure because the people wants to grow this food, and we say that organic beyond organic, and this was became us our slogan, beyond organic,
Cool.
and even
Great.
beyond that or something. Yeah. And
Yeah, that's a
that's
good example right there. You know,
how
even
we
that
end up.
story tells you how to develop this, right?
Yeah. It was, and then of course we was checking the procedure of saving the name and the logo and the brand, and we was waiting for probably 1 year for
Whoa.
yes, because the registration in the international level, it's taking a lot of time to check up, um, because if you have the company with the similar name or with the same name, you have to wait if they gonna um, starting something against you, because if they comply,
Oh, right.
uh, the procedure will be rejected for new grants.
Yeah,
And
all that tricky stuff, right? Does
yes,
that happen in Africa too? Can you tell us about in Senegal? Do you have the same problem?
probably it's similar if you want to register a
Yeah,
brand.
I would think so, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one because we're almost there. We'll just stop at that next slide. Well, actually, we have one for you to think about for Saturday. So the vision and the mission, right? That's how we ended last time. How to make that impact, how a change agent. Are you a change agent? What's the change? What is needed? What's the summary? See, so like Theo just gave you an example of how his vision drived the mission. You know, these two things are almost like two sides of a coin, okay? The vision and the mission. And then he said that he even did that research. So he actually described how he followed that other slide that we gave you. So he took a look at, are there any other companies that have a similar product, a similar name, to make sure that okay. So the vision and the mission, okay? And the next slide is going to show you, again, something to think about. So we're going to end this today as we ended last time, because you can smell it in the air, right? On Saturday, we're going to want to hear some presentations. The vision, the mission, and then let's take a look at what we're going to celebrate. So I like to think about, if you move the next slide, Theo, I like to think about vision and mission where
As a
I
celebration.
suspend disbelief, right? So I go to a point in my imagination when everything is okay. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about, oh, I don't have it going yet, or I don't have the clients. You know, I suspend disbelief. Okay, how do we say that in French? Suspend disbelief. That's a good word for you to practice. Okay, so you want to think about the news has come in and you accomplished all your goals. So what are people saying about you? Oh my God, that class is so cool. I want to sign up. I was going to be studying accounting, and instead I'm going to sign up for computer information technology with computers, because that class is like, woo, right? Or maybe somebody is going to say, I'm going to do all my shopping online and buy all my produce from that wonderful website. Okay, so you're going to think about that. The news has come in and you accomplish your goals. What would people be saying, right? And then you're going to think about, what did you do so that those people would say that? Okay. And again, you're going to back it up. Who benefited from your actions? And where did you do all of that work? Did you do it online? Did you do it in Senegal? Did you do it in neighboring countries? Did you do it in Eastern Europe? What? And how will this have a long-lasting impact on your team? Because the stronger your team becomes, the more you can expand, right? 1 + 1 = 3. Synergy, right? And why will these outcomes build capacity inside your industry and your country? Okay, so you may already know what your vision statement is. You may already know what your mission, vision, and all the problems and the goals and the timelines. However, I'd like you to revisit, align your thoughts, check it out with your imagination, like our friend Einstein said, right? Using our imagination, think out into the future of a moment when you have glorious success. And then question yourself, what did you do to have that success? Who benefited from your actions? Where did you do this work? How will this have a long-lasting impact on your team? And how will those outcomes build capacity within your industry and your country? Because after all, this is all about building the capacity for Senegal and yourselves, right? And going beyond Senegal, beyond Dakar. Okay. Got that? Any questions about this homework? So this homework between now and Saturday is thinking, using your imagination. Maybe go to a nice place, get a nice cup of coffee or a nice cup of tea that smells really good. Do you put herbs in your tea over there in Senegal? Like, do you put cardamom in tea or any other kind of things like spices? I do that to my tea. In fact, I still have some roses that I put in my tea from Bulgaria. Right? Because so
Yeah.
that aroma helps me think a little bit, helps me imagine things in a different way. Okay.
Rose oil.
Okay. So think about these things. And again, we'll put up this slide to remind you on WhatsApp. And any questions about the thinking homework for Saturday? You're already thinking.
Yes,
That's why you're also quiet.
I also start
Okay.
thinking about it.
All right. Well, you can change the last slide. And thank you so much for joining us today and doing those great presentations in the beginning of the session. And as you can see, I've just reviewed with you some of the things that you're going to have to put together for your project descriptions in English. And hopefully this gives you more food for thought.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, Libyan. And thanks to all the participants today.
All right, any other questions
Okay,
before
thank you
we
very
sign
much.
off?
Do you have some questions?
Hello,
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sister Lisa.
Yes,
Um,
hi, how are
Hi,
you? We
Lisa.
missed you.
I miss you.
Yeah, have you been able to listen to the recordings?
Come on, I listened this presentation, but I have many problems to
With the,
understand.
okay,
But I want to know what is the work for Saturday.
yeah. So that last slide that we just said, think about your vision and your mission for your project, right?
Okay, okay,
And then think about it as if you already had a success, right?
okay.
Make believe that you already did it and it was already fantastic. And then see if that changes how you write your mission and vision.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
also not to worry about the internet and so on, because like I said, Mr. Theo is going to be sending you a like a workbook, and that's going to help you review everything from before. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for your
Welcome.
presentation.
All right.
Other
Okay.
questions?
Any other
Okay.
questions before we go? You can always text a question on WhatsApp too.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see you on Saturday. Yay.
Good evening. Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.